What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome to our show today. It's Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. We've got a lot to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble, ready to answer the phone when you call on in. And the first thing I noticed is, amazingly enough, there's something on TV that's being reported that's not the coronavirus, not the wars, and not the economy. The NFL draft begins tonight. And I'm not a big football fan, ever since I got tackled while photographing our high school football games. But at least they're starting to report on things other than coronavirus, because I'm sort of burned out on that. Okay, apparently Valerie Jarrett is saying that Michelle Obama doesn't want the job of vice president. Well, we've already heard that before. She doesn't want the job. She doesn't want the job. She doesn't want the job. What is that quote from Taming of the Shrew? Methinks the lady doth protest too much. And I think they're out there just sort of doing a trial balloon to say, well, assuming she ran as vice president, would you go along with that? But every time they talk about Joe Biden picking his running mate, and apparently his advisors are saying he'd better do it really, really quick, you get Michelle Obama. Now, the reason they want Biden to pick a running mate right now is they're very concerned over the fact that Donald Trump, because of the coronavirus, is getting a huge amount of media attention. You know, he's on the TV, and yes, he is. And so they figure if Biden picks a running mate, then all of a sudden the media can say, okay, that's now the story. So they'll move forward with that. And I would like Biden to pick his running mate just to reassure me that it's not going to be Hillary Clinton here. So let's do some news on the coronavirus. Apparently, Cuomo says that 21% of New York City are infected with coronavirus. This was a random sampling, and so it's roughly out of every 5 New York residents tested positive. That's getting up into the realm where all of a sudden herd immunity becomes a possibility here. Over in Great Britain, the Office of National Statistics figures show 3 times more deaths from the flu and pneumonia than from the coronavirus. So that's putting things a little bit in perspective. And again, we haven't shut the economy down for the flu, and we haven't shut it down for pneumonia here. Now, the Swiss government is getting ready to ease their restrictions next week. They're not going to impose mask-wearing obligation. This stands in sharp contrast to Texas, where a judge has just issued a county-wide order for everybody to be in masks. Okay. Pardon me. Now, the state governors are out there saying that Facebook is lying. And apparently, this all comes out of the fact that Facebook started shutting down the pages of protest groups, people who are protesting the house arrests. And Facebook drew a lot of criticism for it, and they said the state governors asked us to do this. But apparently the state governors are out there saying, no, we had nothing to do with it. Facebook did this all on their own. And I don't know about you, but the reason I stopped using Facebook is because I don't want some corporation deciding what I can and cannot say, any more than I would want the government to decide what I can and cannot say. You know, freedom is an absolute. Freedom of speech is an absolute. The Cherry Sisters lawsuit established the legal precedent that private entities, non-governmental entities, are in fact still bound by the First Amendment. Over at Vimeo, they have banned the documentary exposing Big Pharma's influence within the World Health Organization. The documentary is called Trust Who, and it explores the influence that the pharmaceutical industry has on the WHO, and it was banned by Vimeo. And so the question is, why is sound and solid research presenting credible information being banned and censored on multiple platforms across the internet? One would almost think it's a conspiracy. Okay, there's been a big stink over at Harvard University where they got $8.6 million in bailout money, despite the fact that they've got a $41 billion with a B dollar endowment. I mean, that's worth more than 100 countries' gross domestic product. And they were out there refusing the call from Donald Trump to return this $8.6 million Well, as of the last update, Harvard University issued a statement saying they decided not to take the bailout money after all, because it was an embarrassment. Okay, we're looking at the Sturm und Drang over the latest assistance bill, if you will, and the Paycheck Protection Program, which stalled in Congress because of Democratic demands for pork barrel. But Nancy Pelosi is out there trying to lay the blame for the stall on the Republican Party. All right, we're going to take a phone call now. Joe in Tennessee, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I've always kind of favored a debt jubilee, and I think that currency reset would be a kind of a stealth, could be a great way to have a stealth debt jubilee. As far as you change the money and people owe you money, and what do you got, right? The other thing about it is, I guess when people recommend debt jubilees, I'm kind of thinking it through about, like, what do you do for, like, pensions and Social Security? I mean, that's the tricky part, because, it all sounds good to people when they go, oh, yeah, debt jubilee, and all our debts, we get out of all this and that. But, what about people that are living on, like, fixed pensions and stuff? I guess it'd be kind of hard on them, So I guess you'd have to work something out.
Everybody's in favor of forgiving the debts that they owe other people, but they want the debts that are owed to them to continue. And therein lies the problem.
Yeah, I guess there's a word for it when, they not compensation, but when they owe you, like, a long-term commitment to, But I guess if you mix that with a coronavirus that kills the old people, I guess that kind of smooths things out a little bit.
Yep.
Hey, I'm going to a drill ship in Guyana, but they're sending me to Houston first, and I got to spend 2 weeks in quarantine, and quarantine in a hotel. So I don't know what that's going to be like, but I figured any kind of job with what's coming, it's probably a smart thing to do. So I decided to take it. So they've doubled my. Normally I go on a drill ship for 4 weeks, but they've doubled the time. So I got to go for 8 weeks, which isn't going to be easy. But I figured, in hard times, it's best to, take what I can get while I can get it.
Yes.
But I'll call you from Houston during the quarantine, let you know if what's going on. But I'm just telling you this because it shows that, this is how it's affecting, me and my industry and everything. And that's what they're going to do. I guess they're going to take our temperatures every day. They want to check my temperature when I get there. They want me to check my temperature now. And we'll see what kind of lockdown it is. I guess they're going to room service for food or something. I don't know. But I will let you know. So
all right.
I just thought I'd pass that on. So.
Okay, well, good
next
luck.
Week from Houston.
You got it. Good luck in Houston. Good luck in Guyana. And thank you for the phone call. Okay, the phone lines are now open. Okay, more than half of Los Angeles residents are unemployed, with 1.3 million jobs lost in a month after the virus forced a California lockdown. And again, it's a huge loss, because right now 565 Americans have lost their job for every confirmed COVID-19 death in the U.S. That's the ratio between, COVID-19 deaths and lost jobs. It's a huge economic hit. Last week, 4.427 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits for the first time. These are Americans who normally are not on unemployment, and they had to file for the first time. Okay, Neiman Marcus, iconic retailer, is going to file for bankruptcy and close its 2 New York Bergdorf Goodman stores after furloughing 14,000 employees, becoming the first major U.S. department store to shutter amid the coronavirus pandemic. I remember Neiman Marcus. I used to go to the one in Beverly Hills all the time and buy my mother some of those Godiva chocolates. And it wasn't that she liked the chocolates. She just liked having those Neiman Marcus bags take her lunch in. That was the status symbol. Anyway, right now, 2.9 plus million homeowners are in forbearance plans. That means they're working with their mortgage companies to be able to stay in their homes, even though they can't pay the mortgage. All right, we're going to take another phone call. Tom in Utah. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. My wife and I have been reduced to living in public housing. Right now, in a federally controlled housing unit, I have a crew of Mexicans working on the building. They're not wearing masks. They're not keeping the socially distanced space, and it's federally employed. They're federally employed. Isn't that interesting that the people who can't speak a lick of English are here working, and we're quarantined, or the people who could be working are quarantined? It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
The federal government is a little hypocritical.
Well, it's a typical government screw up. You know, they're not thinking these things through all the way.
Just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Anyway, just wanted to let you know that apparently the federal government's not quarantining any of its contractors or employees. In this case over here, anyway. You know, and they would be foolish to be wearing a mask anyway, because it puts them at risk, because they're climbing ladders and moving things around, and any impairment to their visual or ability to observe things would be more dangerous than the bug.
Probably, but still in all, it's this idea that, American citizens are being told to stay at home, and they're losing their jobs, they're losing their homes, they're suffering tremendous economic hardship. And meanwhile, you've got all these immigrants, which up until recently have been pouring into this country to take American jobs. They're out there, they're not wearing the masks. As you say, they're not practicing social distance. And it almost seems like, legal American citizens have become a second class in this country.
And I'm sure they're getting paid.
Well, I'm sure they are. They're not going to work for free.
They're getting paid for. Well, some of the members, good, vigorous, healthy men in here, are stuck inside. Anyway, it's bizarre. I'm sorry.
It is.
Anyway, thanks, Mike.
All right, you've got it. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Okay, Shake Shack, which is a large restaurant chain that got federal loans through the coronavirus stimulus law, has decided it's giving its $10 million back as well. So apparently some of these large corporations are having guilt, or they just decided they really didn't need the money and didn't need to service the debt here. Now, over 43,000 U.S. millionaires will get a financial boost averaging $1.6 million each. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, CARES, trumpeted its assistance for working families and small businesses, but it contains an even bigger benefit for wealthy business owners. The act allows pass-through businesses, ones taxed under individual income rather than corporate, an unlimited amount of deductions against their non-business income, such as capital gains. They can also use losses to avoid paying taxes in other years. This gives the roughly 43,000 individual tax filers who make at least $1 million a year a savings of $70.3 billion, or about $1.6 million apiece, according to the Joint Committee on Taxation. Always the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's the United States of America. Okay. Still dealing with the oil glut. The coronavirus pandemic and self-isolation measures have triggered a massive fall in global demand for oil. Traders are now struggling to find storage space for excess crude. One of the things that Trump is going to do is he's going to top off the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And that's going to be 1 billion barrels right there. But it's really not enough. They're keeping tanker ships off the coast that are loaded up just to store. And the reason the oil literally went negative price per barrel, the traders are literally paying people to take the oil off their hand. Right now, a barrel of oil costs less than a pint of beer. I mean, that's how bad it is out there. So a record 160 million barrels of oil is currently being stored in large tankers outside shipping ports due to a lack of storage space. Over in New York, their unemployment system is hovering at the edge of collapse following a surge of claims. This is from Governor Cuomo. And This is after the state shuttered non-essential businesses to curb the coronavirus pandemic, putting a record number of New Yorkers out of work. Now, here is where we start looking at what Sweden did, where Sweden did not enforce a lockdown, and yet their illness and death numbers are on a par with America. And it begs the question, did we wreck our economy for no good reason? Okay, we're going to take some more phone calls, starting with Dustin in New Jersey. Hello, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I just bought an oil tanker full of oil. It only cost me a 4-pack of Charmin.
And a face mask.
Hey, I just want to say, Joe from Tennessee, you take care of yourself. You stay safe and stay away from those good Guyana girls. They might rob you when you wake up in the morning. But yeah, Mike, did you watch? I mean, I don't know if you watched those coronavirus Trump, the briefings Trump. I watched them all. I mean, it was pretty bad. I don't know if you saw anything on that, but it was.
Generally, he has the briefings during the second hour of my show, so I'm not really able to watch them in real time. And usually, by the time I get over the show and everything, it's over.
Just like really bad. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like, nobody knows what's going. Like, it just seems. I said this before. Everybody's on the wrong page. Nobody is. The states are not on the same page. The government doesn't. All the doctors all have different opinions. All the statistics are different. So we're in uncharted territory, and that's what's scary.
Yes.
It's just nobody knows really what's going on. Did you see Mitch McConnell, the gobbler? My friend calls him the turkey, the gobbler.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell, the one who says with the stakes, the state should go file for bankruptcy. I'm like, where's this dude been living since the 70s, man? We've been bankrupt in the United States since the 70s, right? Like it's it's like, didn't we just default on the gold contracts in the 70s? That was what that was about, right?
That was when Nixon closed the gold window.
Basically, that was a soft default, right? Basically, because
it was a soft default, and it did put a tremendous strain on the Federal Reserve note, which they replaced with the petrodollar.
It's just, I don't understand why he would say that. And Mike, I don't know, a lot of people know this, but Kentucky takes more money in. They send less money out than they get in, but New York, I think, sends more money out than they get in. So it's one bizarre thing going on. It's just, what's going on? It's all politics from both sides.
Yes.
And that's why we're FUBAR. There's just no way. And then I watched the Ohio governor, and he basically pushed it back to Monday now, like the whole guidelines to what a mess. And then Trump says the Georgian guy, like, I think it's too early, but he was basically doing that liberate thing, and they basically put a lot of heat on the Republican governors, right? Because those protesters went out in a lot of states, right, and like Georgia. And basically, the governor now looks like a dotard, right? Because Trump comes out and says it's too early, but what a mess, man! Like nobody's on the same page. That's what, like I said, that's what's scary. I don't know. It's bizarre. It's bizarre because we all thought Trump was the great businessman and has this great. But it's just, Mike, who's running the coronavirus task force still? Is that still Jared Kushner and Mike Pence and all that? Because they're just...
Technically, it's Mike Pence, yes.
Well, I think he's doing a horrible job. All right,
I
Mike,
agree.
have a good night.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We got to take a break for commercials. Back with another phone call after these few words. And welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to JR in Georgia. JR, what's on your mind today?
Good afternoon, Mike. I just want to let you know it's good to hear Lady Claire's voice every once in a while in this whole ruckus that we're involved in.
Well, she'll be on the show tomorrow.
Thank you. Just a little bit of light on the situation here in Georgia, and Governor Kemp obviously getting a rebuttal from Trump. Of course, Trump's not president anymore. But Kemp here in the state of Georgia already had issues with the state finances.
Yeah.
The 2020 budget, he'd already requested a 4% reduction for 2020 and a 6% reduction in 2021's budget. But Kemp's been looking at the numbers, and Georgia's about to lose its ass. There is no tax revenue hardly coming in.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, and this is coming to your hometown, folks. This party's just getting started. What are you going to do when your county and city say you need to fess up for that property tax on October 31st, and you don't have it? Are you going to get a 90-day extension? What do you think, Mike?
I would say probably not. I would say probably, when push comes to shove, the counties and the cities are just going to say, let's start grabbing property and put it up for sale and raise money that way.
Exactly. Thank you. They're not going to give you any type of suffrage. If you don't have the money, they're going to come after it because they need the money. This is one thing we need to start looking at as citizens, is not talk about the coronavirus in regards to how to fix it, how to heal it, but the pathway to somewhat of a normalcy. Because I've already heard that Dr. Burke talking about tracing. Tracing is the new word for tracking.
Yes.
Because everybody seems convinced that's the only way we can get back to normalcy, is that you get an app so I can trace you to know if you're positive, if you ever tested positive, or you have antibodies, whatever the circumstance may be. Because this is the bad part of this. What's in the future is the bad part, and how we address this. And I don't know, and I like what the previous caller said, we are in uncharted waters. And I do believe it had already started, that the major 1% corporations, they're all going to get that jubilee. It is somehow, some way going to happen. But my fear is this: the local, the common man and lady who's already lost their job,
Yes.
just as my wife lost hers. In the next coming months, I'm fearful of the fact that we may actually see even more violence. When I speak of violence, I mean it's already started with domestic disputes. We've already had a murder here in the state of Georgia, I believe between a father and a son. One of them ended up getting shot. Because there is no foreseeable daylight at the end of the tunnel right now.
Yes.
For these folks who have lost their jobs, have nowhere to turn, have not gotten those checks that were promised, just like we hadn't got ours. And who knows when we will get it. And it's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen and what this country has come to.
It's sad to watch.
It's very sad to watch. And I just don't know. I do not know of any remedy that can help us at this particular point in time. Because I can't go for this tiptoe effect that everyone's trying to implement in regards to trying to get the economy to recover. You're either in or you're not in. There's no halfway point to meet to see if it's going to work. Because if they keep speaking of a second wave, and there is actually a second wave, then I don't know what the reaction is going to be at that point in time. And I don't know how we address it. Because we've been lied to so many times about this coronavirus. We don't know what the truth is. Because it sure has not turned out to be as deadly.
The problem is we've been lied to about so many different things. We don't know that we can, nobody dares trust the government or in anything that they say right now. this talk about a second wave, it may be an attempt to save face by saying, well, maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be this time, but you just wait, that, you know, there's going to be a second wave and then we'll be proved right.
Well, God bless you and Claire, and I hope things work out well for you in the next coming weeks, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much for the phone call, and thank you for the information. Let's see. Goldman now sees a 123% plunge in second quarter S&P earnings. That's $850 billion drop in corporate cash spending. So the economy is definitely showing the strain out there. Okay. Collateralized loan obligations are facing an extinction level event. Moody's prepares to downgrade a fifth of all CLO bonds. All right, we're going to take a break for commercial, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phone lines now, starting with Dan in Vancouver. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Oh, hi. Yes, I have to take the side of those who say that this pandemic is actually a fake. I cite people like Gerald Celente, David Icke, and John Rappaport, and also based on my observations up here in Vancouver, where we have a Chinese population of over 450,000 in a greater Vancouver population of, say, 2.5 million. There just hasn't been any sign of what I'd call a pandemic. And I'd also like to say that I think the reason these old people are succumbing is that they are being forcibly vaccinated by their doctors or healthcare people. And this happened to me 2 years ago. I was forced to take a vaccine without my informed consent. This doctor just took off my shirt and said, "This is a tetanus vaccine. There's no cure for tetanus," and he stuck it in my arm and injected me with it. Then 3 months later, my arm blew up with tetanus-like symptoms. And that's what I have to... Sorry?
I was going to say that sounds bad.
Well, I think this is what's going on, and this is why a lot of old people are, say, dying. I was 65. That was my birthday present he gave me. I turned 65, and he gave me the bloody vaccine. When I protested a couple months later, he actually swore at me. He used dirty words on me, which I've never had a doctor do to me before.
That tells me that probably some other people he stuck with that needle came up with the same symptoms. Because I've noticed medical professionals get very defensive when you talk about vaccines.
Sorry? I
said I've noticed medical professionals get very defensive when you start talking about vaccine side effects.
Well, my recommendation to people is stay away from vaccines, and this whole lockdown thing. This is all just an excuse to ruin the economy. It's they're trying to destroy America, whoever they are.
Well, they're doing a good job of it.
Well, if America goes down, we're going down up here too. So I don't want America to go down. Maybe I've told you before, my family came from the United States originally.
Yes.
They settled up here at the turn of the 20th century. If my grandparents were alive today, they would be very upset. Anyway, that's all I got for today.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Corey in Connecticut. Hello, Corey. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Doing fine.
I would like to talk about Winston Churchill. First,
okay.
Let me apologize if I sound pedantic, but I wrote down everything that I have to say.
Okay.
So if you give me just a minute, I would like everyone to consider Winston Churchill's famous quote, "Those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it." I say, this is not true. I will state quite adamantly, it is pure propaganda. See why? Consider another common saying. History is written by the victors. This does not imply that history itself is propaganda, or more accurately, the manifestation of propaganda, unless you believe that victors are those who are righteous and always speak the truth. Therefore, Churchill's quote should be, "Those who fail to learn the lessons of propaganda are doomed to repeat history."
I like that.
Finally, unless we learn the nature of propaganda, its intent and effect on society, all of life and history in general will forever be an endless cycle of suffering. That's all, Michael. I'll take your comment off the air.
And that was very clear and to the point. And like I said, I like your variation on Churchill's theme.
Yes, I don't think the problem is with studying history, because if you were to go to any college or university, history is one of the more popular, courses to study. So everyone studies history, but, very few people actually study propaganda. So anyway, Michael, that's all, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right, well, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Jim in Montana. Jim, welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Jim, are you there? Okay, let's switch over to Steve Elkins. Steve, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
We have been given the blueprint. They already told us a couple days ago that a second wave of coronavirus 19 is coming. No evidence will be given other than they'll tell you their computer module figured it out based on the data they put in. Of course, if it's fraudulent data put in, you get a higher GFR, which is a global fatality ratio rate. So we know that's coming, so they've already told us the blueprint. That time is needed with the second wave. That time is needed to pad the total number of CV deaths right now, because if they don't pad that number to get close to the regular flu season deaths for 2019, they're going to come out looking exposed for their agenda, because they shut down the entire nation over fraud, over a low number of deaths comparatively to the regular flu season. Their agenda will be exposed. They need this time to pad that number. And with their lax rules, what physicians have been told, the lax rules to include anything they have a hunch on or believe it might be the coronavirus, they are getting those numbers. I saw them today, the total numbers of deaths. I think we're at 42,000 something deaths. And I'm willing to bet with the lax rules that we now know about, that probably that number is probably half of that, maybe even less than that. The total number, true deaths to the coronavirus. This thing has been padded greatly, exaggerated, and with the exaggeration, the fear, and the campaign. It also, the second wave, if they can show it's the second wave without really showing evidence of it, just their computer module, they'll actually stop all these opening up the states for business. They're going to stop that really fast and allow this agenda to keep going on. I have no clue of when they will pull the plug on their agenda, but they need the time now to pad this number to get closer to the regular flu numbers, or they'll be exposed.
Yes, very much so.
That's it for me. Have a great show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Ray in Indiana. Hello, Ray. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I just got home, so I don't know if you talked about it already, but New York's giving updates on their antibody test. Did you see that?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. But then the real reason I called was I was doing the research, trying to find quantify what this economic shutdown was going to do. And I'm having a hard time finding a number. But I did find out that that suicide rates did go up on the last recession we had in 2008. and there's
Yes.
reports that it was okay. And you're showing reports on your website that London is reporting an increase in suicide. The sad part is suicides have been going up ever since the turn of the century, and they've gone up 33% per capita since the start of the century. That part's kind of sad, but I do like that most of the callers are agreeing with me and you, that the economic shutdown is worse than this flu. So Dustin is in a minority on that one, and I hear all the callers going. And another point that I found in my research is if you go to the CDC website and do a search for the influenza burden by season, which gives you the number of cases, the number of how many people are hospitalized, the number of deaths, you'll see a big spike in the 2017-2018 flu season. So there's speculation out there on the internet that possibly this corona showed up all the way back in 2017, and this spike that's showing up there could be that, which would negate all that theories about it coming from the Wuhan lab there.
Okay.
That's all speculation. I'm just saying that. But there was a big spike in 2017, 2018.
Yes,
So
there was.
Yeah. So that it might have started a whole lot sooner than everybody else thought. So and I heard Dustin called yesterday asking about Indiana and what's going on. There are protests going on in Marion County there, because that's where the governor's mansion is. And last Saturday, and I think they're going to do it again this Saturday. I was half tempted to drive over. I'm over an hour away, and we're supposed to do essential travel. I didn't want to risk getting a misdemeanor charge for driving over and all that. But so I'm hoping they're doing a local protest. So my sign is going to say, all tax revenues are essential, because we're losing all the businesses that are not paying taxes are essential. So anyway, so I wanted to throw that sign out there to get people to stop and think. I'm not trying to make anybody mad or anything else.
Yeah.
But, all tax revenues are essential, whether it comes from the private individual or if it comes from business. So that means all business is essential. And I will be protesting this weekend. So anyway, thanks for your time. Keep up the great work. And I love you, Dustin. Hang in there. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Paul in Arizona. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Really love the show. I'm a relatively new listener. But I wanted to ask you something, and I don't hear much of the callers talk about it. Where my stance is that this is definitely something else that's going on. Like, I believe the flu is real, but my question for you is the adrenochrome. Do you know who David Rodriguez is, the boxer?
Yes.
So he posted a video, or he was on Facebook Live like 6 days ago, and it ended up going viral. And he's basically saying that Trump is basically spearheading all the sex rings and all the Hollywood pedophilia stuff, and that's kind of what the shutdown is what's going on, is they're basically draining the swamp. I was wondering if there's any truth to that or what you think. I'll listen to it off the air. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, Paul. Well, I don't think that's what's going on, but there's all kinds of theories going on, all kinds of disinformation going on. I think the shutdowns, somebody really thought that this was going to help curb the infection of the coronavirus, and they didn't really think it through about what kind of an impact it was going to have on the economy. And that does seem to be where we're at with this. Anyway, okay, the phone lines are open right now. Okay, now, The U.S. Mint has halted all production over virus fears as gold and silver coin demand nears record highs. People are getting into gold, they're getting into silver, and because it's reliable. It's not paper, its value can't change. The value of the paper changes relative to silver and gold, but the silver and gold is an absolute store of value. And just as the premium between physical and paper precious metals prices was starting to fade, the U.S. Mint has decided to temporarily halt all production at its West Point facility in New York because of the risk to employees from COVID-19. Okay, we had somebody who called into the show and said they have not yet received their stimulus check, and apparently there is a great deal of chaos. Now, the Internal Revenue Service is saying this is all working, Treasury is saying this is all working, but apparently the IRS tracking system crashed. Thousands are complaining they haven't gotten the payment. But officials insist the website is operating smoothly and effectively. They said the same thing about the Obamacare website. Remember that disaster? All right, at least 22 million Americans are now out of work due to COVID-19, as another 5.2 million claim unemployment, decimating 13.5% of U.S. workforce and 10 years of job growth. Now, House Democrats have introduced legislation, the Emergency Money for the People Act, that would give Americans $2,000 a month throughout the crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic and until employment returns to pre-COVID-19 levels. Of course, at some point, all of that money does have to be paid back. I think probably most Americans don't want handouts. They want their jobs back. They want their businesses back. They worked hard to build those businesses, and now they just have to sit there in their home and watch it all fade away. Peter Schiff is out there saying that nobody should be bailed out, and right now he is, basically aiming at rich CEOs. Venture capitalist Chamath Palihapitiya made waves when he said during a CNBC interview that the government should not bail out companies impacted by the coronavirus shutdowns. On Main Street today, people are getting wiped out. Right now, rich CEOs are not. Boards that have horrible governance are not. What we've done is disproportionately prop up poor performing CEOs and boards, and you have to wash these people out. He's absolutely right. We shouldn't incentivize bad management just because they're donating to members of Congress here. U.S. banks have set aside $27 billion for credit losses from what they're calling the Corona Session. According to Rabobank, this may be the worst recession ever, although judging by bank earnings, the realization will take some time to filter through. Americans have paid an extra $46 billion with a B dollars in tariffs since the start of the China trade war, according to new data. And we've got to take a break for commercial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to take a few more phone calls, starting with Daniel in British Columbia. Hello, Daniel. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, Michael. Yes, I wanted to touch on a little news from Canada from yesterday. Our Liberal government, Justin Trudeau, announced $9 billion in aid for students to get $1,250 a month, just to put in their pocket. And statistics show that they already, most of them already live at home. And it just seems like it's like one push forward to this universal basic income and apply for votes for the next generation, because I know these kids are, a lot of them lean left already, and they're probably thinking, oh, this is great. Justin's our savior, because, they're getting more money than they would have probably working at Starbucks over the summer. And he's pushing it through to August. So what does that say? It says that they plan on having this shutdown at least till then, which is scary enough.
Yes.
So I thought I'd just throw that out there. I don't know what you think about that. I mean, that just seems like a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yeah, especially when what do they have, a cell phone bill, and some of them have car payments, but very few students live at home. I mean, some of them come from wealthy families and they live on the dorms, and those aren't cheap, but they're not paying for that, because a lot of the universities are deferring payments for tuition, for the not just tuition because the schools are closed, but for the dorm rentals. So they're just going to be having a free for all, and I just don't agree with that. I think we need to get back to work, and the sooner the better.
I agree.
It's just kind of a scary thing. There's one other topic I wanted to touch on that no one has really mentioned, and it's kind of the fate of all these animals in zoos and game farms all over the United States. Like there's game farms that have tigers, for instance, and they cost $10,000 to $20,000 a year to feed them. And with nobody going to these game farms, I'm afraid a lot of either these animals are going to be neglected or put down or what have you. And it's just another sad chapter to this whole fiasco, if you ask me.
Well, I saw a story.
I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh, well, I saw this story where this zoo is in such trouble, they're actually killing some of the animals to feed to the predators. And I imagine it's got to be terrible to be in that position of deciding what animals are going to live and what animals are going to die. But, that is the reality during the shutdown. Now, I want to step back to what you were saying about, getting back to work here, because I have a concern, which is, we're creating this, shall we say, social inertia to basically stay at home and try and collect money. What happens when they say the lockdowns are over? You're going to have a lot of people who are going to say, look, I got used to this, staying at home and collecting money. I don't want to go back to work. That could really happen. Anyway, Dan
is already saying that.
Yeah. Daniel, got to let you go. Got to take a station identification. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we're going to go to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today? Dan, are you there? Okay, let's try Mike in Kentucky. Mike, hello, welcome to the show.
Hang on, let's go back to Dan. I think
we're going to go back to Dan.
What?
Dan, are you there?
Okay, you there?
Yes, you're on the air.
Are you?
You're on the air.
Okay, yeah, I can hear an echo, so I'll keep it short. I can hear myself. But I just want to make the point that the mistake they made from the very beginning is saying essential versus non-essential. And I think they should have focused more on enclosed versus non-enclosed. Because I think, then all these governors that want to decide what they think is essential or, wouldn't that make more sense to stay at essential, non-essential, stay enclosed, focus on places where people are forced to work close to each other and
that's a very good idea.
As much as possible.
That's a very good idea because a lot of people got very upset being told that what they do for a living is non-essential.
Yeah, I agree. And say a golf course, I'm keeping my distance. Why shouldn't that be open? You're getting good exercise, you're getting sunlight. I think it's essential, but they would say, oh, that's not essential. But and it favors Walmart's, Costco's over all these little businesses. Most small retailers could stay open. And restaurants maybe make it half capacity, like they were starting to do, 50% capacity or something while all this is going on.
Yes.
So I'll just keep it at that point. I thought, and they need to. I think Trump screwed up. He should have ordered making masks. Focus more on making people wear gloves and masks more. But yeah, that was my main point. Not non-essential and essential. Focus more on enclosed spaces. So, all right, thanks. Have a good day.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Mike in Kentucky. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Mike, are you there?
Can you hear me? Now
yes,
you can hear me.
Now you're on the air.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of people puzzling over this and what's really going on, and I'm still kind of puzzling over what really went on and how to look at 9/11. But you and Claire should, and this is a pretty interesting thing that I stumbled across, and it's one of those things that's not really talked about in history a whole lot. But I think it would make a great article to do some comparisons If you've seen the stories coming out of Israel, and I know how kind of you feel about the superior race or whatever you want to call them there, and their superiority complex, but they've been having some of their, I guess, ultra-Orthodox crowd. They've gotten arrested with goats in the trunks of their cars, trying to get up to Temple Mount, after Jerusalem was recognized as a capital, and all the stuff that Trump went through. It gave them about everything they wanted, which I don't know what president hasn't really, but and there's still a bunch of them in that demographic, we'll say, that was coming after him on impeachment, And in the meantime, he's giving them about everything that they want. And so one thing that this coronavirus interrupted, and I'm drawing a parallel here to the events of 363 AD, and they still went ahead and did it, but they're, so they'd have some bragging rights, I guess. But it's the first time they was able to sacrifice a lamb on Passover inside the old city. But they set up a altar that looks semi-permanent. It's built out of some stones that can't be moved by human hands, I don't think. It's big enough. And somewhere near, I guess, north of the Dome of Rock, where they think the original Abraham altar might have been. And they wanted really bad to sacrifice a lamb on Temple Mount this Easter Passover, and it didn't happen. So if you go back and look at history, this one Caesar Pope that hated Christianity in 363 AD, he tried to form an alliance with the remnant of the Sanhedrin, and they tried to start reconstruction of a temple. And there's like four historical accounts. The guy's called Julius the Apostate, and every time they tried to do something, another calamity came at them. I mean, it was like earthquakes, tempests or tornadoes, bad storms and things like that. And finally, I think they dug up, and this points toward validation of some of the New Testament, is they dug up what they thought was the foundation stones, and fire came out of the earth, and that's what finally ran off the workers. But they had, signs of the cross that came down on the workers, and somebody saw a cross in the sky. There's like 4 different accounts. One of them's by an atheist, and I just stumbled across this a few months ago, and I'm like, well, there's no wonder they don't want this story told, It's kind of one of those things that the mainstream of Christianity probably has not really known about for a very long time, and it was kept out of, these Christians United for Israel's history. If Claire knows about it, if you don't, I think it'd make a great article for at least the interesting coincidence. Interesting coincidence. All right, thanks.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Daniel in North Dakota. Hello, Daniel. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hey, Mike, how are you?
Doing fine.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're on the air.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, hey, I just wanted to talk to you guys about, the guy was saying that, he wanted to organize protests and stuff like that. Well, I happen to have a website called antideepstateparty.com, and if anybody's interested in doing something like that, all they got to do is make contact me, and I can set up a calendar event or anything. And I'd be happy to do that for you guys. I'm a long-time listener. I love listening to the guys here. But that's pretty much about what I had to say.
All right. Well, thank you for the kind offer there. And what was that website one more time?
It's called antideepstateparty.com.
Antideepstateparty.com. Well, thank you very much. We're going to let you go and switch over to Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I sent you something the other day. I hope you had a chance to look at it. It was an article in Conservative Review which summarized the results of investigations of SARS-2 corona infections, and then also the number of infections of COVID-19, and based on far larger samples, random samples than we've had so far. And what they've showed so far And these are studies that were conducted by Stanford University, Rockefeller University, researchers at Oxford. So you're not talking about people who are pulling numbers out of the air. And what they found is that the number of infections is far, far, far greater than reported. Now, the result of what that means is that lowers the death to infection ratio from something up above 2 to 3% down to something closer to 0.1 to 0.12%, in line with common variants of influenza.
Yes.
And I read that, and I checked all the links. I went to each one of the links, and I was impressed by the studies and by the people who conducted the studies. And it may be infuriating because it makes me realize here that what's happening is that we're not being told the whole truth about what's going on. For some reason or other, government does not want you to know how many people are actually infected because they want to have a much higher mortality ratio.
Yes.
That I think we really have. And that I think is because they're looking for some reason to gain control, to exert control over a population. They're turning this place into a gulag, Mike. And I think we're getting to the point at which people are just about ready to rebel.
I would agree with you on that last part.
If they knew these figures, I think they would rebel.
I think what the government is trying to do is trying to make it look like they were close in their original estimates as to how bad the pandemic was going to be, because it just flat out isn't. And they overreacted clearly. They did the lockdowns and the mask and all the rest of this stuff. And frankly, I think any objective observer is going to say they were basically idiots in the way that they handled this whole thing. So they're trying to save face by ginning up a bunch of numbers which justify what they did.
Right. You know, if you look at Anthony Fauci's numbers that he reported early on, as many as 2.2 million deaths. And then this has been dropping since then. Well, I had an interesting discussion with a friend of mine today, a petroleum engineer. We were talking about some modeling issues, and we got into this matter of estimating or reporting numbers. And he cited, and he's exactly right, he said there are standard deviations. And he said the media will report something as high as 2.2 million, but he says, is that on the third standard deviation or what? In other words, it's on the far end of a collection of data. Curve. A probability curve. So it's way out to say the third standard deviation, which puts you out something above the 99th percentile. Now, if the media are reporting, say, 2.2 million, but they're not telling you where it lies within that probability distribution line, they are absolutely not telling you the truth. And for some reason or other, government does not want people to know this. And I was just when I read these investigations, the summaries of the investigations, I checked the sources. I was just infuriated because really it underscored what I already suspected. But the data and these studies really underscore that. The numbers are coming out of California now that support that.
Yes.
And other places. For example, they cited the Roosevelt aircraft carrier and the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier from France. Thousands of men on those carriers, many of them infected, one death in both carriers.
Yes.
You know, that's a good microcosm of what you would expect in society at large. To see the mortality ratio drop to say 0.1 to 0.12% after you factor in all of the other infections that were not previously reported are out there, ought to make you furious as hell.
Yeah.
I'd like to get some more discussion about this from other people. I mean, I can't stand living in this gulag. It's a place that only people like Dustin could love. It's just making me furious.
Now let's all go easy on poor Dustin, okay? I mean, he's got to be feeling kind of bruised up right about now.
Well, he needs to latch onto some real numbers before he starts telling other people that we need to lock ourselves up for another 3 months. It's uncalled for.
Well, finding those real numbers, that's the hard part.
Well, I think the real numbers are starting to dribble out, but the government and the press are not trying to report. They're not reporting them, but they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
I have no reason to believe that Stanford Medical School wants to report false numbers, or the Rockefeller University, or Oxford, or this university in Germany, or other hospitals that are conducting these investigations. So the numbers are there, but they're just not being reported. Anyway, Mike, good call, good show today.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Milton in Pennsylvania. Hello, Milton. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Hello, Michael. I wanted to say, you were saying, or people were saying about the second wave possibly coming.
Yes.
And I say, enough's enough, okay? This is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and that's the time to prove it if they pull it a second time. And I'm talking about rebellion, just as the gentleman just spoke before me. Enough's enough. Right now, we're all hiding like a bunch of chickens, forgetting, we got something to stand up for.
Okay.
Your turn.
Well, again, I don't like the idea of rebellion or civil unrest or rioting, but I can certainly see where the American population is being pushed in that direction. And there's a part of me that actually celebrates all the people who are getting out there and protesting on the lockdowns, because I think the lockdowns were an overreaction. I don't think the numbers of ill and the numbers of deaths justified that kind of attack upon, first of all, our freedoms, and second of all, our economy.
Yeah, I know. I speak to a lot of people, Facebook and all, and it's in the air, definitely. It's getting to the point, enough's enough. And that's pretty much, I just wanted to get it off my shoulder, because it's coming. It's going to come. It's a terrible thing, but it's going to come.
Okay.
My dad, your dad, our families, and all fought for this freedom, and we need to carry it on. Okay, thank you, Mike, for the time.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Anyway, California is going to give immigrants ineligible for the stimulus money cash payments. Think about how crazy things are out there in California. Now, don't get me wrong. When I lived in California, I loved it. A lot of interesting stuff going on there, but I would not move back there now. I really wouldn't here. California's massive $125 million illegal immigrant stimulus is partially funded by Mark Zuckerberg. Now, Governor Newsom announced this massive cash payout for illegal immigrants in California that would consist of a public-private partnership. The gross total of the illegal alien stimulus will amount to $125 million, of which $70 million will be paid for by taxpayers who are legal United States residents. The other $50 million will consist of private funds from various pro-mass immigration special interests under the banner of the California Immigrant Resilience Fund. So you have these billionaires who are out there who are spending their money to open up this country to illegal immigrants. And I hit that word hard, illegal. Okay? The problem isn't immigration. The problem is illegal immigration. You can't just walk up to the border and step across and get all kinds of free stuff. Well, actually you can. That's the problem. If you were to go down to the border with Mexico and step across that border, what do you think is going to happen? Hi, welcome to Mexico. Have free stuff? Heck no, you go to jail. If you want to be fair, we should have an immigration policy at the Mexico border that matches that of Mexico itself. I'd be perfectly happy with that. Okay, Chinese-owned Smithfield Foods has shuttered 2 more meat processing plants in Missouri and Wisconsin after a massive coronavirus outbreak closed the South Dakota factory, threatening the American food supply chain. The other day we were over at Walmart, as I mentioned. We were looking for a chest freezer. They're sold out of those. Like toilet paper, that's gone. Mexico has been downgraded to just 1 notch above junk on imminent severe recession. And apparently things are not going well down there. Fitch downgraded Mexico from BBB to BBB-, which is the lowest rating above junk, because of the rating agency writes, the economic shock represented by the coronavirus pandemic will lead to severe recession in Mexico in 2020. So it's hitting everybody. Okay, this happened last week, but it's worth mentioning again. Apparently up in Canada, which has gun control, A gunman disguised as a cop killed 16 people in Canada's worst mass shooting, including a mother of two. So, I guess the pressures are getting there. All right, let's talk a little bit about computers. China has started developing their own operating system, and they're doing it to sort of wean the country off of Windows, out of concern that Microsoft Windows is rife with spyware, that the US government has backdoored it. And so Union Tech is ramping up work on its UOS Linux distribution by recruiting 5,000 people to work on it and using Chinese-made chips. China's homegrown operating systems haven't made much of a dent in the global stage. Now there's a Linux-based system that's aimed at weaning the country off of Windows. UOS, or Unified Operating System, hit a new milestone after its first stable release in January. Union Tech's OS can now boot in 30 seconds on China-made chips. That would be interesting to look at, see how that's doing. Okay, here's an interesting little article, and it came out of News at Yahoo. Oh, we got to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back. And welcome back to our show here. And we're talking about this story where NASA has discovered another Earth, or at least that's the claim there. And the newly found world is called Kepler 1649c. It's 300 light years away from Earth, orbits a star that is about 1/4 the size of our sun. And astronomers have determined this planet, it's nearly the same size as Earth, and it orbits in its star's so-called habitable zone where liquid water could exist on its surface and liquid water could support life. Well, this is where our species chauvinism is starting to show here, because in order for life to evolve, you need a liquid medium, but it doesn't have to be water. There could very easily be life in those methane lakes on Titan. And if I were head of NASA, I would definitely be lobbying for a soft lander and a rover on Titan that would take a look and see if there's something swimming around in those lakes. Anytime you have a liquid medium, even liquid sodium, you can have the possibility of life. You can't rule it out. But everyone's obsessing with finding life as we know it. But life as we know it is probably just a tiny, tiny fraction of what's out there. And I do wish that we would sort of enlarge our horizon, if you will, and realize that life can occur in all kinds of forms, with all kinds of liquid medium. Okay. This story kind of upset me a little bit. There's this Harvard professor who's a professor of law and director of Harvard Law School's Child Advocacy Legal Clinic, is out there saying that there should be a presumptive ban on homeschooling. And he claims it promotes white supremacy. And in the essay goes in there and says, you know, homeschooling's unregulated. Those parents, they're teaching their children stuff that we may not approve of. Well, they are the parents. Parents do have a right to decide what their children know and do not know, I think. Me silly. All right, we're now in the 6th year since the start of the Flint water crisis, and apparently Vice published an astounding exclusive report on how Rick Snyder, the Republican who served as Michigan's governor from 2011 to 2019, knew about Flint's toxic water and lied about it. Now, the report is based on a 1.5-year investigation, comes almost 6 years after an emergency manager appointed by Snyder switched Flint's water supply from Detroit's system to the Flint River to save a little bit of money. And since that move on April 25th, 2014, city residents have endured health consequences resulting from a deadly Legionella pneumophilia bacterial outbreak and exposure to heavy metals and cancer-causing contaminants, because the water from the Flint River had its own acids in it, which were leaching heavy metals out of the water supply, out of the pipes. So not only are the people sick, the water system has to be replaced at some point. Okay. Let's see. Oh my goodness. We actually ran out of talking points for a change. Alrighty, let's pull up a few things here. Apparently there is a nationwide 9mm ammunition shortage. A lot of people are getting very, very nervous about that. And a lot of people are concerned about food shortages. Apparently Tyson just closed one of their pork plants, the nation's largest. And this is something we're not really seeing on the corporate media, where they're talking about the possibility that there's going to be a food shortage. Now, I'm not one to encourage hoarding, but having a little extra might not be a bad idea. I know that the big box stores like Costco and Sam's Club were selling these emergency food kits of freeze-dried food. And that might be worth picking up. And granted, it's not fine dining. It's survival food. But it might be nice to have, along with storable water. Okay, let's see. We're taking a look here. Apparently, the House is now voting on the latest coronavirus stimulus bill. And I'm not seeing any results on that yet. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says workers should boycott the reopening of the economy. And basically saying, don't go back to work when it all opens up. And I was mentioning that in that phone call. What happens if we develop this social inertia of people just sitting at home and saying, I like sitting at home. I like getting money mailed to me. Why can't we just go on doing this? Now, it's not an image of the American people that I would be very pleased with, but human nature is human nature is human nature is human nature. Okay, we got to take another break for commercials. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Andy in Texas. Hello, Andy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, hi, Mike. I think the people in this country, especially your new listeners, and I've heard a lot of, well, maybe they're not new, but they finally decided to call in and stuff, and they all seem to be very optimistic about what's going on here. I want these people to know there is absolutely no way they can walk this back with any kind of government trust after this. Oops, we made a mistake. Let's reopen this. And then look at all the people that cannot go back to work, all the people that are failing right now. Look at all the food that's lost. Let's cover this real quick. Every single casino in Las Vegas is toast. Everything in Reno is toast. Now, I know the Vegas mayor is trying to get them to open it back up. She was on CNN. I get that. But think of all the buffets and all the different things that has to do with food. And I'm going with food here specifically because not only the casinos, but look at all the restaurants that have been shut down completely. And so all this food is drying up, rotting. They can't even give it away. They're dumping it out. They're getting rid of it. And we've already been hit seriously by the rains from last year and the tornadoes and all this different stuff that went on that devastated our crops. And you were saying last year, before this even happened, that we were going to have a shortage in food. Look what they've done now. There's onions, tomatoes, all this stuff is just rotting on the ground because I told you the last time I called, there's this guy owns an onion farm. He gets 360 trucks a day filling up with onions to get out of there. He's down to 122, and it's probably lower. I haven't checked with him since. So, I mean, and there's onions on the ground. It looks like a levee trying to hold water back. Okay, regardless of what you think, so many of your foods, processed or not processed, has onion in it. You're not going to have onion for much longer. The people in Africa are hitting really hard because this went there too, and I'm pretty sure the globalists made sure it hit them there because that's the main place we want to kill people because they were already starving in the first place. Over 1 million people have died in Africa so far of starvation. So I want people to get a grip on what's going on here. This isn't something that's going to pass. This is not going away. This is their mark. They cannot walk this back. Will you ever trust government again if they come out and say, oh, April Fools? No, but they can't walk it back. There's no trust factor whatsoever. They have no choice but to continue to go forward with this. And this slow motion reopening, well, I see what it is, because we're never going to get back to what we were, and we're still going to ration food because they destroyed the food, the whole trail of our food. They destroyed that. They destroyed truckers. The truckers, they can load up all the onions and all the tomatoes and all the lettuce they want, but they got no place to take it to. So we've totally destroyed our entire food system, and we're still sitting here as if, well, we're talking political, like, well, this is the Democrats against the Republicans, and Donald Trump's still playing that 5G chess, and this has nothing to do with political anymore. The people above our political system are the ones who've been wanting to do this to us for years and years and years. And they happen to be connected to the Jewish Foundation, the Zionist Jews. You don't see anybody in Congress. We saw Nancy Pelosi on some stupid news show or comedy show, and she showed what she had in her freezer, several different kinds of chocolate and several different kinds of ice creams, like Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. You see what I'm saying? She was laughing and giggling, like, this doesn't bother them. They're well stocked. They got plenty of stuff. And all these other people that are out there saying this too will pass. It's not going to pass. You know how many? I'm one of those people that I don't have an income. I was remodeling a house, and now the guy is so scared of COVID-19, I don't have nothing to do, and he's not bringing me food, he's not bringing me water. I have to go and meet neighbors and stuff to get what I need. I was prepared for it mentally, but I wasn't prepared for it physically. I was a traveling worker. So I got a big problem going on here, but I'll tell you straight up, I've been studying this stuff for several years, and this is not going to, they cannot walk this back. I don't care who thinks that it's a real virus. The virus is a cover. I'm sure there is a virus, but it's nowhere near as deadly as they said it was, and it did not warrant shutting down the entire nation, or the world for that matter, to get a handle on it. This is a pre-planned thing. It's called the New World Order, or One World Government. I don't care. Give it a name. These people are going for what they want. They believe we're overpopulated, and that Hunger Games movie, that was quite a show for you, because that's kind of what's going to go on here. I don't know if we're going to have to go out and compete for our food, or they're just going to let us die. However, either way you look at it, you cannot walk this back. They cannot walk this back and still have trust in government. Well, it'll be anarchy if they walk this back, because nobody's going to ever believe the government again. And we keep getting all these Trump sympathizers like, he got taken by some. You're the president, dude. If you don't know what the hell's going on, then what the hell are you doing as president? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's no sympathy for Donald Trump. He's a Zionist Jew, just like all the rest of them that are doing this to us. And he's playing that role. He's that puppet. He's that actor. And he's walking us through this so that we all stay sympathetic. And then you got your QAnon guys. Holy crap, that worked really well for all these people. All these people who believe in QAnon, that worked extremely well for what's going on right now, because they walked everywhere. Don't worry, if they decide that you have to be locked down and stuff, and there's a blackout or whatever, don't worry. It's all part of the plan. Trust the plan. Oh, how many millions of people are following this knucklehead? Whoever he might be, and he's probably some dude from the CIA's office going, we got him now. And they're still playing it. You get on the internet, they're still playing this thing. They actually think children are being rescued from underneath Central Park and the tunnels of LA and whatnot. Well, maybe some people did rescue them, but that has nothing to do with starving. This lockdown is going to kill far more than the coronavirus could have possibly even thought of killing, especially when it comes to food. And we're about to see what's going on. And these food banks and stuff, they're running very low and stuff. They're running very low, and people are going there daily, because you can come in there and get a box daily, and I've seen lines on the internet. I've seen some lines of these people. They go for miles, and they circle around in these huge parking lots, and you get up there and you get one little box, and you wait for 4 or 5 hours to get that one little box. And it's enough to feed your 4-person family for a day. And it's all over with. That's it. You're done. Now you got to go get in line again. So that's your new job. Your new job is to go set in a food line. This is worse than 1929. This is worse than the Great Depression. This is far worse than that, because they destroyed our food, our food channel, our food ladder, if you will, the years before, by not reducing the water and the levees and stuff. Instead, they flooded out the plains. They grew our crops and stuff. They've been doing this for years. People really need to do the research. This is the plan. This is not going to be walked back. Nobody's going to fix this for you but you. And if you don't have a survival garden going, and I don't, I've got one started, but it might be too late. If you don't have this, your food is going to be growing, but other people will eat it because you'll die of starvation before you can get to it. People don't understand the urgency of what's going on right now. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible emergency. 9/11 doesn't have nothing on this, okay, because we only lost nearly 3,000 people in them buildings and then 3,000 more or 8,000 more, whatever, when we went to war and stuff. So we're looking at 11,000 there. We're talking about millions that are going to starve here, Mike.
Well, yeah, it's looking very grim right now. And my concern is, given enough hunger, people will start eating people. We used to have a joke, when we lived in Hawaii, if they ran out of Spam 3 weeks later, we'd be eating the tourists.
I'll tell you what, Spam is a good thing to have right now. You got any kind of canned meat, hang on to that.
Yep.
Eat all your perishables first and then go for those things that are non-perishable. But I'll tell you what, eat it skimpingly. Eat 1 meal a day. If you don't have very much food, eat 1 meal a day. Even if your stomach growls, know that you got some food in your belly today, but certainly find a way to get some clean water. You last a lot longer with water than you do with food. You can lose up to 30% of your body weight before you actually starve to death. But you can only go three, maybe 4 days of the strongest hydrated person without water. So and at this point, it doesn't even matter if your municipal water system has fluoride and everything in it. You still need the water. Drink the damn thing before they turn it off. And I've watched some videos of people that are very credible, and stuff has been happening the way that they've said it. And so I'm inclined to believe that eventually they're going to turn off our electricity and our water too. So, and this is just extreme at this particular point. People are going to be like, oh, he's paranoid. No, I'm not paranoid. I've been studying this stuff since 2008. Okay, since they stole my business with the housing bubble, yeah, I've been studying why this has happened. So I want to know what's going on, and I figured it out. And this is part of the plan. And what's really funny is they made it very obvious that this was a flop. So they're arrogant, and they've been arrogant. 9/11 was very visible that it was a flop. Once you got a grip on what happened with 9/11, you're like, these guys did this. And that's what got me thinking. So, I mean, at this particular point, I think people just need to stand up and do what they need to do. If you've got a business, get out there and open it. If you don't have a business, go out and encourage people that do have businesses to open it. And help them any way they can. Let's get as many businesses as we can possibly get open and just go beyond this thing. We got to do something, and we got to help our farmers out. We got to find a way to get those onions off the ground before they all go bad. We got to find a way to get the watermelons picked up, all the tomatoes picked up. We got to find a way to do it. We got to link with these people. And I've already talked to the onion guy. He says there's no way of getting this stuff to even the food banks and stuff, simply because there's no need for that many onions. He could get a very small amount of the onions. It would cost him more to get the onions to the food banks than he could possibly even afford to do. So at his own detriment, he could deliver his stuff to food banks and stuff. This is ridiculous. People think that this is some sort of joke and they're going to come out of it. Only the people who have plenty of food to survive on and they can still get to the store and their shelves are still full, those people are doing just fine. Everybody else that doesn't, like for myself, and I'm not crying here, I'll figure a way out, but all these people around me, all my friends and stuff that I've met around this neighborhood that I'm at, they all think this is all a pushover. They really think it's the Democrats going after Donald Trump. Democrats are willing to kill millions upon millions of people to get Donald Trump unelected. I don't think so, especially when you look at who Donald Trump is. Well, bailed out twice by the very bankers that run our country. You don't get to be a billionaire 2 times in a row without stepping on or owing somebody something. Correct?
Correct.
So people got to look at this, Mike. They got to look at this the right way. I'll let you go here. People got to look at this the right way and in the right format. Just because you ain't hurting now doesn't mean you won't hurt 6 months from now, or a week from now, or 2 years from now. But you're going to hurt. And the pressure's on. Anyway, thank you so much, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Boss in the Netherlands. Hello, Boss. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. It's Bass.
Hi.
Boss.
It's Bass. Okay.
First, sometimes I heard some misconceptions about my country. In this show, for example, we would be a tolerant country. Well, that's just a sales pitch. We are not tolerant. It's to get tourists to Amsterdam. At the moment, they're closing some neighborhoods for Airbnb, for example, and they rebranded the tolerant to welcome to the Netherlands or something different from tolerant. I hear the basic income, which was also an issue in my country for a while, also in the other European countries, and it's basically cutting costs on overhead. You give away money for free to people. You don't have the civil servants to manage, to do investigations, stuff like that. And then the Nexit. Netherlands will not do a referendum on leaving the EU because the Netherlands is one of the founders of the EU by the Benelux, and later the EEG, and then the European Union. And then I want to talk about the benefits of the coronavirus. Because everybody is so negative, there's also positive sides to this. People are noticing when companies make profit, they keep it. They lose money, it's dumped on the people. One of the examples.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Yeah, I didn't hear you, so I was looking if I saw the connection. And then we have those countries in the south of Europe, like France and Spain, Italy. They have been spending like crazy, like there's no tomorrow. My country has a fair, balanced sheet. We had a surplus, so we reduced the state debt. And now the countries like Spain and France, Italy want Eurobonds. And correctly, our Minister of Finance, he prevented that. But today they agreed on some package, like 540 billion, to hand out to those countries. But even Macron, the Prime Minister of France, he was playing the Holocaust card last week. We were not being solidar with the French by not giving them Eurobonds, and he was playing the Holocaust card. It was like it was all 1933 again. And nationalism. I think one of the benefits will be that the whole of the European Union and also the Euro will just implode. And what I see around me is the implosion of capitalism.
Yes.
So I will leave you with that. It's like 10 to midnight. Tomorrow is a working day. And we have an intelligent lockdown. We have a 6 feet society. We have a 6 feet economy. I can go to work. I work outside. After work, I go to the beach, lie down, have some sun, and just enjoy the weekend. It's not like in Spain, where they just lock down everybody in their houses. So we are really lucky. We can buy our way out. Those countries which are in poor condition already, those are the people getting the full, load. And including the countries like Asia, our suppliers of clothing, electronics, they're not getting the orders like before. So they will also be hit very hard. But not just our Western world.
Okay, well, Beth, I have to let you go. We got to take a commercial break. We got one more phone call. When we come back after these few words. And welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go back to the phones to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hello, Michael. You know, that caller, 2 callers back, he was just, another doomsday guy. I mean, he's sitting here, and then he brings Trump into it. What do you think they'd be? No, of course they wouldn't be after Trump. Every governor has opposed Trump when he tried to get the economy back to work. And all these governors have either banned or stopped the hydroxychloroquine when it could be serving people. We've seen what Cuomo's done. We've seen what the jackass in California, Newsom's done. Oh, no, it wouldn't be the Democrats. Where's this guy at? I've been studying this for years, too, and I don't know what playbook he's coming out of. It's ridiculous for him to sit there and say that. Yeah, are we in tough times? Of course we're in tough times, and they put us there. But, Michael, you ever recall this this character or in the book, and I think it was Atlas Shrugged, The Men of the Mines?
Yes.
And what happened when the Men of the Mines got back together after all this other stuff went down? I don't believe it was a doomsday atmosphere, because we got what we've always got. We've had a creative, industrious, ingenious people. And this running around panicking and everything's doomed. You know what? Take those onions and send them to Europe where they need them. People still need food. I mean, what's this guy talking about? He's worried about the onions? People need food, and people find ways to cultivate food. This may be a blessing that happens to us, because maybe people will get off their can and they'll start creating and doing something and be industrious members of society. You know what I mean? Maybe
Yes.
we need something like the WCC or the whatever the program was that Roosevelt brought about, and they finally fixed, the roads and fixed parks and everything like that.
They built dams.
I mean, who's to say? Pardon me, sir?
They built dams.
Yeah, and if we didn't ever need those right now, look at California. So, I mean, this just sitting here and saying, oh, my God, get your spam out. And, I mean, it's nice to be prepared, but let's not get crazy, because that's what they're doing. They're getting so crazy, they got everybody locked in their houses. But, we've never relied on them. We've never needed them, except for a small segment of government ever relies on them. All throughout history, it's been the American spirit, the American ingenuity, the American creativity that have gotten us through everything. It's never been government. So I want to see people go back to that. This running around and, there's going to be debt. There's going to be, all kinds of things. But that's how it is. And we've always had this debt. Let's face it anyway. When was the last time we didn't have debt, Mike? In the 20s?
Actually, the last time we didn't have debt goes back to Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, 1820s. I don't know, but it's been a while. So I mean, we've always had debt. Now, we might have to come up. Who knows? We might need another dollar. I mean, at one time they used sticks for currency. Who knows what they're going to come up with? But this all the time, throw it in, and they're in charge, and they're this. I'll tell you what. You get enough people out here pissed off, and we're going to be in charge. And we're starting to see that with these protests. So let's let that set in. Let's get off our cans and get active. Let's get some ingenuity going, and let's see what we can do instead of every day saying, "Oh my God!" And the food is the. You know what? Send that food to Europe, and the food we need here, keep it here.
Hey,
and
Miles,
let's get off of this, and let's start thinking of what we can do.
Miles, I got to let you go. We're at the end of the program. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of RBN. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.